I'm sort of theorizing right now, so don't you shouldn't take this video too seriously. I'm just I have a lot of coffee in me, and I'm just trying something out. So I was sitting at the coffee shop, and I've had this has happened a few times with people that are somewhat close and people that are I don't know. So you bring up the topic of atheism, or you walk around with a book like this. Hold on. Walk around with a book like this, and people are interested, but they're only interested in sort of the rhetoric of it. And I think this might be unique to Canada, and maybe some other countries as well, or unique to a multi-ethnic sort of environment, or a multi-ethnic city, where you don't really discuss religion openly. It's sort of like I said, it's somewhat of a rhetorical question, a rhetorical conversation. I've been kind of thinking of a research paper I should be writing, and one of the topics, or that one of the angles that I wanted to take was basically, that secularism is needed in some sort of climatic way to foster in gay rights, or foster in equal rights for same-sex couples, etc., etc. But these types of questions seem to be already answered in the minds of people that live in developed countries with, multi-ethnic, multi-religious, multi-racial sensibilities, or environments. And so I'm struggling a little bit with this research I want to do, because the questions I'm asking are sort of basic questions. But in my defense, I would say that a lot of the answers to these questions are, while they might be answered mentally, or they might be answered internally, or within a conversation with yourself, or a conversation with the history of your city, or the history of where you live. They seem to get submerged into places where they're so rhetorical that they're almost forgotten. They're almost not paid any attention to. So there could be some sort of validity to rehashing some of these older questions. Apparently there was a secularist movement in the 60s, in sort of a real sort of backlash when it came to warring nations, and post-colonial sort of thinking, and these types of post-colonial type bents on acceptance and diversity, etc., etc. So it's not like it's something that we haven't lived through before. In fact, I think Canada was somewhat kind of founded on secularist belief, or secularism anyway. Belief, that dirty word, right? But anyway, it kind of founded on secularism between vying denominations of Christianity, Protestant and Catholic. Secularism may have, obviously it's morphed since then, and it's not so much two major religions going after each other. It's more about the separation of church and state than competing denominations try to gain some sort of foothold by leveling the political playing field. So it's not that these questions aren't answered. They are answered, and they've been answered like many times. It's just that there is, in a secular society like Canada, and one that's diverse as Canada, there seems to be this submersion of talk of competing priorities when it comes to a religious base, or a conservative base in each religion. I know I said I should write stuff down. This morning I actually wrote out an article at Starbucks. I haven't handwritten an article or a blog post in a very long time. So anyway, that's just out of interest. It's just going through the notes right now, and I don't think that we've totally gotten over religious influence in Canada. I mean, there's still the aspect of, a redundant Catholic school board. There's still the issue of GSAs. There's still the issue of privately funded schools that exist I think in Mississauga, and they're funded by, Saudi Arabian money. It is part of our constitution. It's part of the Constitution that you should be able to open a private school funded by whatever religious denomination or religious sect that you feel is appropriate for influencing your educational your children's education. So there's even a university, TWU, that had gotten private funding, government funding, but with a covenant for its students that adheres strictly to celibacy, and particularly the allusion to celibate gays. So those are, just on the education side. There's obviously religious influence. There's also weapons sent to Saudi Arabia as a matter of Canadian economic policy, and how we deal with. Now, that isn't necessarily a religious issue, but I mean, you are sending it to a country where religion heavily influences human rights and violations of such. So I mean, religion does play a role. There's also madrasas in Pakistan and elsewhere in the Middle East. Maybe in the Middle East, I know Pakistan for sure. They're being funded, or at least intellectually funded, by Canadian institutions. I'm not. What I'm trying to paint a picture of is that I'm not saying that Canada is such a horrible fundamentalist place to live. I'm definitely not saying that. But what I am saying is, like, there are still a lot of institutional sort of. There's still a lot of institutional influence when it comes to religion, particularly Islamic. Islam specifically kind of stands out on some issues, just because it's been in the spotlight for so very long. I think since 2011, 2001. So it's a bit of a heavy issue. What else? So yeah, I think there's this, just to wrap up and just to reiterate, I think there's, as a Canadian, there's this politeness when it comes to religion, but there's also this sort of burying of conflict when it comes to religious ideas and religious competitiveness. It's kind of like, let's maybe turn the other way, but there's always the tiny things, like the hijab that start getting public notoriety. Hijab Day, which I thought was probably not something we should have done, considering that we are looked to as somewhat of an international policing country. Excuse me. So anyway, I can't really say much else. In terms of the ism for today, I can't think of one right now. Racism. Racism is discriminating against somebody because of their race. I mean, Bill Nye and many others have basically said that racism is not really. It's a societal construct. It doesn't really exist. We all basically have the same genes inside of us. The same. We're made of the same type of. We can all breed. We can. So I mean, race does not exist, and I do understand that. Race is something that is society, maybe even geographically constructed. If you wanted to get kind of deep into it, I'm sure there's a lot of people that would say yes, race does exist because it's something that's very real. They feel the discrimination for it, but obviously, I don't think on a genetic level or on a species level, it doesn't exist. But society does exist, so there you have it. Anyway, I'm going to a meetup this evening at 5 p.m. I've never been to a meetup before, so it should be interesting interacting with strangers, but strangers that have very common thinking. So we'll see how that goes. Never been to one before, but we'll see. Anyway, that's it for now. Have a good day.